Okay, Chavre, good afternoon. Today is the 19th of Menachem Av, and we are on page 80 in the Chayenu, starting a new section, Epistle 6 in Igeres HaKodesh. When a person arouses their compassion by giving tzedakah to those who are in need, and especially to impoverished people in Israel, in Eretz Yisrael, they thus solicit Hashem's compassion towards themselves. So when you're giving, Hashem's going to give you. This is why tzedakah is called planting. For we sow our compassion, and in return, we receive Hashem's compassion. In today's lesson, contemplating the exaltedness of Hashem's divine blessing, and yet becoming aware of our lowly state. It brings a person to the service of Hashem with compassion. Let's get right into it. Vav. Zayrei tzedakah secher emes. Mishlei Yud Aleph. One who sows tzedakah has a reward of truth. Generally speaking, when you sow, it means you're planting, something's going to grow from it. So when you're giving tzedakah, there's going to be a benefit in return. What's that going to be? Pirush. Sheschar zriya sat tzedakah imidas emes. This means that the attribute of truth is the God-given reward of sowing tzedakah. You get what you give tzedakah, you get in return blessing, peace, serenity, truth, kindness, compassion. Kedachsiv titein emes liYaakov. The pasuk says you give truth unto Yaakov, which would appear to indicate once again that the attribute of truth is granted from above. Ushavacha diktusha brichu, the kucha brichu misader. And here the prophet Micha speaks the praises of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as is written in the Holy Zohar, meaning rather than petitioning Hashem, this pasuk exalts him, Hashem, for fulfilling his promise of granting the attribute of truth to Yaakov Avinu, Jacob our father. This means that Hashem gave the attribute of truth to Jacob. What does this mean? Does that mean that Jacob was unable to tell the truth, God forbid, until he was blessed by God with the truth? So it means like this. It's known that the attribute that Jacob had was the attribute of compassion. Avodas Hashem emidas rachmanus, and the service of Hashem through compassion. So Avraham was known for what? Chesed, kindness. Yitzchak was known for gvura, severity, stringency, the counterbalance of kindness. And Yaakov was compassion. And where does this compassion come from? It comes from the arousal in a man's heart of profound compassion for the divine soul which is in your heart. Like here, inside a person. Here we talked about how when a person does an aveira, when a person does something wrong, he schleps Hashem into a very low place. So if he feels bad for Hashem, he won't do something that would schlep God along with him into this dark dungeon, so to speak. Which is distant, this dark place is distant from the light of Hashem's countenance, wherever the man goes about in the darkness of the vanities of the world. We learned that in Pirkei Avos yesterday. Don't pursue vanity. Don't pursue taivus, whether that's in food, whether that's in other desires, maybe in Yavin, right? So when a man finds himself straying, forlorn in a state of spiritual darkness, he cannot thus awaken himself. He can awaken within himself a feeling of compassion for the divine soul that's within him that has been put in this dark state. And it's because of him, because of, again, not only the deeds that he does or the words that he says, but even the thoughts that he has that go through his mind. So where does the compassion come from, and what do we do? The arousal of compassion derives from and is proportionate to a man's understanding and deep cognition of the greatness of Hashem. When we think about Hashem, and an easy way to do it is during the davening. We're focusing on the words, and we're thanking Hashem, and we're having that relationship with Hashem. That's step one. You think of Hashem's greatness. He reflects on how even the most infinitely sublime worlds are considered nothing before Hashem. Even the most spiritual of worlds which we discuss, Atzilus, Bria, Tzira, the higher worlds, Gan Eden, Olam Haba, Garden of Eden, the world to come. When we think about them, they're only a reflection or a ray of light from a single letter of God's name. As we've learned this last week, the world to come was created merely by the letter Yud of the divine name. So the spiritual worlds, all of which are included in the term world to come, were thus all created by means of the single letter Yud of the divine name. And we talked about our world being created through the Hey, we'll get to that in a second. So the spiritual worlds, all of which are included in the term world to come, when we say world to come, we're also talking about Atzilus being the higher worlds, and Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. So all those are included when we say the world to come, because that's not this world, that's the next world, whatever that is. We're created by means of a single letter Yud in the name Hashem. Yud Kivaf Kivihine Beziv Harazoi Shihi Spashto Sachayus Mishmoi Yisparech Lachi Yoisam Elyonim Etachtoinim. It's this radiation reflection, this little glimmer of light, which is an extension of the life-giving energy that flows from Hashem's name, and it animates the higher and lower beings who Sheyesh Hevda V'Hefresh Bein Elyonim L'Tachtoinim. There's a distinction and a difference when it comes to the higher and lower beings. Again, angels and us, human beings. They were created with the letter Yud. This world was created with the letter Hey, and so on. While the higher worlds were created with the letter Yud, this one was created with the letter Hey. Also, all the varying details of each world within each world. Shinui, is determined by differences in the combinations of the letters through which they were created. The details we're not going to get into now, but the point that the higher worlds was created with Yud, our world was created with the letter Hey. So this is like a step in humbling yourself. Oh, you think you're so great? We were created by just a ray of a letter. So too the distinctions between past, present, and future. And also within time, there's minutes, there's moments, there's hours, there's even within the hour and the minutes, everything is determined by a combination of different letters. These combinations of letters are the conduits of the life-giving force that proceeds and comes from the attribute of Hashem, whatever that letter may be, as explained in chapter 2, chapter 11. Part 2, chapter 11. So all the above mentioned differences are found only in the flow of vitality, the energy that comes from the godly attribute, and then it descends through the letters of Hashem's creative speech. Now, so we're talking about all the different energies and the different creations that come about, but when we talk about our soul, which is in us, and that's a portion of God that has not changed. Doesn't go through any levels or chambers or rays or anything else. It's the essence of Hashem. Neither in terms of changing progression and levels. Here we talked about time and space and all these other things, but the essence of God does not change no matter what. Same way God's up there in charge of everything and nothing changed, so down here also. As was explained in the beginning part of the time. So the higher lower worlds defer only in relation to the stream of life-giving energy that flows from Hashem. This vitality is more revealed in the higher worlds than in the lower. Again, we talked about the difference in time. When we talk about the upper worlds, the lower worlds, that's a space thing. But time also, past, present, and future, is the exact same thing with Hashem. In fact, there is no past, present, and future. It's all one thing. You can't even say it's happening now because there is no now. There is no time when it comes to Eibusher. This is something that blows your mind. We can't understand this because we live in a dimension of time and space. So the question is, how can Hashem's absolute unity remain unaltered after being put in a universe, that's space, and we live within a time limit, right? Hashem created the world in 6 days. The world is 5,786 years old. This is because everything is absolutely nothing in relation to Hashem. It is being, in essence, imagine one letter that you said in your lifetime. However you're old, you might be 50, you might be 40, you might be 30, you might be 80. And try to think of one letter of a word that you said at some point in your life when you were 10 years old. Is that significant to you? You probably don't even remember it. Right? So just as a single letter of a man's speech or even a thought is of absolute no consequence in relation to all the words and all the experiences that you go through throughout your lifetime, right? So too, with regard to Hashem, he said a word, big deal, but compared to the Eibusher, it's like nothing. Does that mashal make sense? The Eibusher created the world with one letter, with the hey. So everything compared to that is like nothing with the, for us, it's everything. But for the Eibusher, it's nothing. It's like you saying one word when you were 5 years old. Baba, mama, but 5, you can already speak. But I'm saying even when you're like a little infant, you said one word. Does that have any consequence, any significance in your life whatsoever? Zero, none. You don't even remember it. So it's not only is it not important, but it's almost as if it never happened, right? But it did. But it's so metaphorically speaking, we try to appease the ear. What does that mean? In order to give finite mortals some inkling of the insignificance of creation, the eyes of the Creator, but still, by the way, however much we compare, okay, I said a little word when I was 5 years old, and in comparison to all the words I spoke and my whole lifetime, it's insignificant. Even that is nothing compared to the mashal to the nimshal of the end result of Hashem with one word compared to, really everything is nothing. Again, difficult concept, but unlike the single letter of thought and speech that bears some degree of comparison to the soul, we could say, okay, but, if it was recorded, we can go back and say, that was the first word I ever spoke when I was a little baby. Maybe I don't remember it, but people remember it. And if it was recorded today with cameras and everything else, maybe it's something. When it comes to the Eibusher, there's no connection. There's nothing about the Eibusher. This is what we say in the davening, that the king is exalted alone from aforetime, which means that before creation there was only Hashem. So too now, Hashem is exalted above everything. And he's elevated beyond all days and all of the world. This means that Hashem is exalted and elevated, transcending the dimension of time, which is known as the days of the world. We call it the days. We have Monday through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. So we have a certain time pattern. This is so because the life force of all the days of the world, the life force of the dimension of time, derives from the spiritual level known as Hamelech, which we daven when we say Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we say Hamelech. This is the world. The axis of past, present, and future is brought about through the sovereignty of the king. Hashem reigns, he did reign, and he will reign. As explained elsewhere. So since Hashem utterly transcends creation, which is absolutely of no consequence in relation to his essence, so now let's think of our neshama. Our neshama is a part of Hashem. The body and the world around us is all creations, but the neshama is a part of Hashem. And where we go, even if it's simple, nothing, it's time and space and everything else, must be very dark for the essence of Hashem to be in. So we have to have Rahmanus. And he says here that the neshama dwells in the dark and gloomy body, which is compared to the hide of a snake. The body, what happens is it contracts all sorts of tuma impurities, and it indulges in things that are not appropriate, especially when it comes to having such a spiritual essence inside of us. And by various lusts, we become defiled, etc. Things that are, and even things that are permitted, but they're indulgences for our own personal satisfaction and say, yes, it might be kosher, but you don't have to go and eat it. It's not like you're, starving or anything. If not for Hashem serving as a shield for man, without the Eibusher giving us the strength and the might to wage war with the body and its passions and to triumph over them, to break a habit, it's very, very difficult. That even when the body does not actually lust after physical pleasures, but the very fact that the body is able to do so, sometimes it does, but even if it doesn't, then it's able to do so. Within it, there still is the divine spark, and that's where the neshama resides. In a body that could potentially get involved in things that are not satisfactory to a Jew, that were things that we're supposed to do. We thank Hashem for giving us the strength. It's only because Hashem gives us the power and the ability to overcome our temptations that we are able to overcome our evil desires. The takeaway for today is reflection of compassion. Hashem transcends time and space. Creation did not change anything in the Creator. From Hashem's perspective, nothing changed. The whole world is like, to us, it's massive. There's a whole universe. There's other worlds. But imagine it's just like, the mashal of, we said one word when we were a little kid. That's completely insignificant to us. The same way, Al Derech Mashal is the entire world, the way it was created by the Eibusher, it's completely insignificant. Nevertheless, the whole world was created through the letter Hey. And the worlds to come, the spiritual worlds, were created through the letter Yud. And that's very nice and fine. But we actually have the essence of Hashem, the whole entire essence of Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is the neshama, which is inside of us. The soul came down and descended into the body. And if you want to how do we have compassion? How do we have this deep connection to Hashem? We think of our neshama, the power that Hashem gives us with the power to succeed and to overcome the Yetzer Hara and to do the right thing to do and to serve Hashem. Okay, wow. It was deep, but I think it was at least more on track and understandable than some of the recent daily Tanya learning. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow morning with Hashem.